somewhere on this planet, right now, a person is stepping onto a plank of wood suspended hundreds of feet above a raging river, holding onto nothing but a rusted cable and the hope that today is not the day it snaps. They are not doing this for a thrill. They are doing it to get to school, to sell vegetables at a market, to visit family, to survive. Across the world, entire communities live their lives one footstep away from catastrophe, crossing structures that most of us would never dare to attempt even once. Some of these bridges are centuries old, woven from living trees or twisted rope. Others are engineering marvels dangling from the highest cliffs on Earth. Some of these bridges are centuries old, woven from living trees or twisted rope. Others are engineering marvels dangling from the highest cliffs on Earth. All of them share one thing in common. The smallest mistake could be the last one anyone ever makes. By the time this journey ends, you will never look at a simple bridge crossing the same way again. On the rugged coastline of Northern Ireland, salmon fishermen once needed a way to reach a tiny island where the fish gathered in staggering numbers. Their solution was a thin rope bridge stretched nearly 90 feet above jagged rocks and churning Atlantic waves. For over 300 years, fishermen crossed this swaying walkway carrying heavy nets and equipment, trusting a single line of rope to keep them from a fatal fall. The wind here is relentless, whipping across the cliffs with enough force to push a grown adult off balance. Today, the bridge has been rebuilt with modern cables, yet it still sways with every gust, and visitors often freeze halfway across, gripping the rope handrails as the ocean roars beneath their feet. The original fishermen had no handrail at all. One misstep meant a plunge into freezing water with almost no chance of rescue. Long before tourists came for the view, this was simply how people made a living. It is a place where survival once depended entirely on balance and nerve, and it is only the beginning of what awaits. Deep in the rainforest outside Vancouver, Canada, a bridge stretches across a canyon so deep that the river below looks like a distant ribbon of silver. Built in the 1880s using nothing more than hemp rope and cedar planks, the original crossing was so unstable that local residents nicknamed it the Laughing Bridge because of the nervous laughter it provoked from anyone brave enough to cross. The canyon plunges over 230 feet, and the forest around it is thick with towering Douglas firs that block out much of the daylight, giving the entire crossing an eerie, isolated feeling. Today, the bridge is reinforced with steel cables, yet it still bounces and sways underfoot, a deliberate design choice that keeps visitors' hearts pounding. Indigenous communities in the region had long known the canyon as a place of power and danger where the river's force could sweep away anything that fell into it. Indigenous communities in the region had long known the canyon as a place of power and danger where the river's force could sweep away anything that fell into it. Engineers who built the modern version had to anchor the bridge into solid rock since the canyon walls were too unstable to trust otherwise. Even now, on windy days, staff have had to close the bridge entirely, unwilling to risk what the forest below has claimed before. High above the Malaysian rainforest, perched at nearly 2,300 feet, a curved pedestrian bridge clings to the edge of Gunung Machincang, one of the oldest rock formations on Earth. The Langkawi Sky Bridge is suspended by a single pylon, meaning the entire structure hangs like a hook in the sky with no support beneath most of its length. Visitors reach it by cable car, itself one of the steepest in the world, climbing through dense jungle mist before arriving at a walkway with a glass-paneled floor that reveals the terrifying drop below. Local legend speaks of a mythical giant who once used these mountains as stepping stones, and standing on the bridge, suspended between cloud and canyon, it is easy to understand why ancient stories imagined something otherworldly here. Sudden tropical storms can roll in within minutes, reducing visibility to almost nothing and turning the metal walkway treacherously slick. Engineers designed the bridge to sway intentionally, absorbing wind pressure so it does not snap under sudden gusts. But for those crossing it in a storm, that gentle motion feels anything but reassuring. Far below, the rainforest hides a world few have ever seen, and the next stop takes us to a bridge that fools the eye before it tests the nerve. Along Norway's spectacular Atlantic Ocean Road, a bridge twists upward at such a severe angle that from a distance it appears to simply end in midair, as though the road ahead has been swallowed by the sky. This optical illusion has fooled countless drivers into believing they are approaching the edge of a cliff, causing many to slow to a nervous crawl before the road reveals itself. Built to withstand hurricane-force winds and waves that crash directly onto the roadway during storms, Storsundet Bridge connects a chain of small islands battered constantly by the open sea. Fishermen who use this route describe waves rising high enough to wash completely over the bridge deck, forcing temporary closures during the worst weather. The surrounding waters are notoriously unpredictable, with sudden swells capable of catching drivers completely off guard. Norwegian engineers built the bridge with reinforced concrete strong enough to survive direct ocean impact, yet locals still treat winter crossings with real caution. What looks like a thrilling photograph from a car window is, for those who live here, a genuine test of timing and nerve against the power of the North Atlantic. In New Zealand's South Island, a steel bridge stretches across the turquoise waters of the Kawarau River, a gorge so deep and narrow that the river below appears to glow with an almost unnatural color. This bridge holds a unique place in history as the birthplace of commercial bungee jumping, but long before thrill seekers arrived, the crossing itself was already considered dangerous by early gold miners who used the gorge to search for fortune in the 19th century. The canyon walls are steep and unstable, prone to rock slides that have buried sections of trail without warning. The river below moves with incredible force, fed by melting snow from the southern Alps, and anyone who falls into its current faces almost no chance of survival. Miners once rigged makeshift crossings using little more than planks and rope, gambling their lives daily for the promise of gold. Modern engineering has made the bridge itself far safer, but the gorge beneath it remains exactly as merciless as it was over a century ago. From here, our journey moves to a crossing built not for tourists or miners, but for the survival of an entire mining town. In the mountains of Durango, Mexico, an old suspension bridge stretches nearly 1,000 feet across a canyon that swallows sound itself, the wind howling through the gap where a river once flowed before it dried into a distant memory. Built in the late 1800s to connect a booming silver mining town to the outside world, Puente de Ojuela was, at the time, one of the longest suspension bridges on the continent. Miners and their families crossed it daily, carrying tools, food, and sometimes their entire livelihoods across a walkway made of wooden planks and steel cable, many of them badly worn even in the bridge's earliest years. When the silver ran out and the town was abandoned, the bridge was left to the elements, rusting and swaying untouched for decades. Today, it has been partially restored, but sections still shift alarmingly underfoot, and gaps in the wooden planking reveal the canyon floor far below. Local guides warn visitors never to cross during high wind, recalling stories of the bridge bucking so violently that people were forced to crawl the final stretch on their hands and knees. What was once a lifeline for a thriving town is now a haunting reminder of how quickly prosperity and safety can vanish. Along the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, a footbridge connects two rocky peaks at an elevation just over a mile above sea level, and it does not merely sway, it swings, moving with the wind in a way that unnerves even experienced hikers. Built in 1952 to give visitors access to a breathtaking summit view, the bridge crosses an 80-foot chasm where wind speeds have been recorded exceeding 200 miles per hour, among the strongest ever measured in the eastern United States. On calmer days, the crossing feels manageable, but when mountain storms roll in without warning, the bridge can shudder so violently that staff close it immediately, unwilling to risk the safety of anyone caught in the open. The mountain itself is notorious for its unpredictable weather, capable of shifting from clear skies to dense fog and lashing rain within minutes. Native American communities once considered these peaks sacred ground, respecting the mountain's raw power long before engineers ever attempted to conquer it with steel and cable. Even with modern reinforcements, the swinging bridge remains a genuine test of nerve, a reminder that no amount of engineering can fully tame a mountain like this one. High in the Peruvian Andes, spanning the Apurimac River Gorge, hangs the last surviving example of an Inca rope bridge woven entirely from mountain grass by hand. For over 500 years, the local Quechua communities have rebuilt this bridge annually using techniques passed down since the height of the Inca Empire. When a vast network of similar bridges once connected an empire stretching thousands of miles across some of the most extreme terrain on the planet, the Apurimac River roars far below, its name meaning great speaker in the Quechua language, a nod to the thunderous sound it makes as it carves through solid rock. Building the bridge is a communal ritual, with entire villages gathering to twist grass into thick cables strong enough to hold the weight of dozens of people crossing at once. Before modern alternatives existed, this bridge was the only connection between communities separated by an impassable gorge, and falling meant almost certain death in the violent rapids below. Spanish conquistadors who encountered these rope bridges centuries ago were reportedly terrified to cross them, describing structures that seemed to defy both gravity and reason. Remarkably, this ancient engineering tradition continues today, a living link to a civilization that mastered mountains long before modern tools ever existed. In the dense, rain-soaked jungles of northeastern India, the indigenous Khasi people have spent centuries growing bridges instead of building them, guiding the roots of rubber fig trees across rivers until they fuse into living, breathing structures strong enough to carry human weight. Some of these bridges have been growing for over 500 years, strengthening with every passing decade rather than weakening like ordinary wood or steel. The region receives some of the heaviest rainfall on Earth, and rivers here can rise with terrifying speed, turning a calm stream into a raging torrent within hours. Villagers have relied on these root bridges for generations since conventional structures rot quickly in the constant humidity, while living roots only grow stronger over time. Reaching some of the more remote bridges requires hiking for hours through slippery jungle terrain, crossing smaller, less stable root formations along the way. Local legend holds that ancestors who first guided these routes communicated with the forest itself, though botanists explain the process as simple, patient horticulture stretched across generations. Falling into the swollen rivers below is a genuine danger, especially during monsoon season when the water becomes fast enough to sweep away anything in its path. Nowhere else on Earth will you find a bridge that is, quite literally, alive. At nearly 10,000 feet above sea level in the Swiss Alps, Europe's highest suspension bridge clings to the side of Mount Titlis, offering a walkway just 1 meter wide across a knife-edge ridge with sheer drops on both sides. The Titlis Cliff Walk was built for tourists, but the mountain itself has claimed lives long before any bridge existed here, with sudden avalanches and violent alpine storms capable of appearing with almost no warning. Visitors reach the bridge by cable car through a glacier cave carved directly into the ice, emerging onto a walkway where the wind can reach speeds strong enough to make walking upright genuinely difficult. Below the bridge, glaciers stretch for miles, slowly grinding the rock beneath them, a visible reminder of the raw, unstoppable forces shaping these mountains. Temperatures at this altitude can plunge far below freezing even in summer, and the thin air alone leaves many visitors breathless before they have taken a single step onto the bridge. Mountaineers who have explored this region for centuries speak of the mountain's unpredictable moods, clear skies one moment and blinding whiteout conditions the next. Crossing here means trusting steel and engineering against one of the harshest environments in Europe. Also in Switzerland, but far more remote, the Trift Bridge stretches nearly 600 feet across a valley carved by a retreating glacier, reachable only after a strenuous hike and a steep cable car ride into the mountains. As the Trift Glacier has melted over recent decades, it has exposed a massive gorge that previously lay hidden beneath solid ice, forcing engineers to construct one of the most dramatic pedestrian suspension bridges in the world simply to reconnect hiking trails that the melting ice had severed. The bridge hangs 100 meters above the valley floor, narrow enough that only one hiker can comfortably use the metal grating at a time, with the glacial lake below visible directly through their footsteps. Sudden alpine winds funnel through the valley with tremendous force, and the bridge has been known to sway enough that hikers instinctively grip the cables with both hands. The retreating glacier itself is considered a stark, visible symbol of a changing climate, with the ice shrinking measurably year after year. Rockfall is a constant hazard here, as the newly exposed valley walls are unstable and prone to sudden collapse. Few crossings in the world offer such a direct, unsettling view of nature's raw and shifting power. Above the town of Chamonix, France, a narrow metal walkway connects two rocky spires at an altitude of over 12,000 feet, offering what may be the most vertigo-inducing crossing on Earth. Reaching the Aiguille du Midi requires one of the steepest cable car rides in the world, climbing almost 9,000 feet in a matter of minutes. Before visitors step out into air so thin that many feel lightheaded before they even approach the bridge. The walkway itself has a glass floor, revealing a drop of well over 3,000 feet straight down to the valley below. And the wind at this altitude can be brutally strong and bitterly cold, even in the height of summer. This is also the starting point for mountaineers attempting to summit Mont Blanc, the highest peak in the Alps. And the surrounding terrain has claimed the lives of experienced climbers caught in sudden weather changes. Ice frequently coats the metal railings, and temperatures can plummet without warning as clouds roll in and obscure the view entirely. Standing on this bridge means standing above nearly all of Western Europe, suspended between two jagged peaks with nothing but engineered steel holding you above one of the most unforgiving alpine environments on the planet. In the Wulingyuan Mountains of China, a scenery so otherworldly that it inspired the floating peaks in the film Avatar, engineers built the world's longest and highest glass-bottom bridge, stretching nearly 1,500 feet across a canyon, plunging almost 1,000 feet straight down. The Zhangjiajie Glass Bridge was constructed using panels of specially reinforced glass, each capable of withstanding tremendous pressure. Yet many visitors report the unnerving sensation of the floor cracking beneath their feet, a special effect installed deliberately to intensify the fear of the crossing. The towering rock pillars surrounding the bridge were formed over hundreds of millions of years through erosion, creating a landscape so surreal that ancient poets once described it as a realm belonging to immortals rather than humans. During its opening, the bridge attracted such enormous crowds that authorities were forced to close it temporarily, concerned that the sheer number of visitors exceeded what the structure could safely support. High winds funnel dramatically between the narrow rock pillars, and on stormy days the entire bridge has been shut down for safety. Even knowing the glass is engineered to hold far more weight than any crowd could ever provide, few visitors manage to look straight down without their legs beginning to shake. In the Czech Republic, nestled in a resort in the Králíky Sněžník Mountains, engineers built the longest pedestrian suspension bridge in the entire world, stretching an astonishing 721 meters between two mountain ridges. Suspended 195 meters above the valley floor, Sky Bridge 721 was engineered to withstand wind speeds of nearly 180 kilometers per hour, a necessity in a region known for sudden and violent alpine storms. The bridge sways gently by design, a calculated engineering decision that allows it to absorb powerful gusts without placing dangerous strain on the structure itself. Though for those crossing, that gentle motion can feel far from comforting. Sections of the walkway include glass panels offering an unobstructed view of the forested valley directly beneath your feet, a view so dramatic that many visitors instinctively slow their pace halfway across. Winter transforms the bridge into an even more extreme experience, with ice coating the railings and freezing winds cutting straight through even heavy clothing. Mountain rescue teams here train specifically for the unique challenges this bridge presents, ready to respond if weather conditions turn dangerous mid-crossing. It stands today as a monument to how far modern engineering has come and a reminder of just how much nerve it still takes to walk across it. Deep within the mountains of Hubei Province, China, the Sidu River Bridge holds a record that stuns even seasoned engineers. Standing as one of the highest bridges on Earth, towering nearly 1,500 feet above the river valley below. Before this bridge existed, the journey between two mountain villages separated by this canyon took travelers hours along treacherous winding roads. But building a bridge here seemed almost impossible, given the sheer depth and remoteness of the gorge. Engineers solved the problem using an ingenious and dangerous method, firing rockets across the canyon trailing pilot cables. Since no crane or vehicle could safely reach the site any other way, workers then had to construct the bridge from opposite cliff faces, meeting in the middle at a height where a single misstep meant a fall longer than most skyscrapers are tall. The surrounding gorge is prone to sudden fog that can swallow the entire bridge from view within minutes, disorienting drivers who suddenly find themselves crossing what feels like a bridge into nothingness. Local villagers who once relied on treacherous mountain paths now cross this engineering marvel daily, a journey that used to take the better part of a day reduced to mere minutes. Yet those who witnessed its construction still speak with disbelief about workers who built a bridge by essentially climbing into the sky itself. Hussaini Hanging Bridge, in the remote Hunza Valley of northern Pakistan, surrounded by some of the tallest and most unforgiving mountains on Earth, the Hussaini Hanging Bridge is often called the most dangerous bridge still in daily use anywhere in the world. Stretching across the glacial waters of the Hunza River, the bridge consists of little more than wooden planks, many broken or missing entirely, tied to steel cables that sway violently with every gust of mountain wind. Local villagers cross it regularly, carrying goods and livestock, since it remains one of the only direct routes connecting isolated communities cut off by towering peaks on every side. The river below is fed by melting glaciers, running icy and fast enough that falling in offers almost no chance of survival, made worse by the fact that rescue in this remote region could take hours to arrive, if it arrives at all. Winds funneling through the narrow valley can grow strong enough to make walking upright nearly impossible, forcing travelers to crouch and grip whatever cable remains intact. Despite repeated calls to replace it with a safer structure, funding and the region's extreme isolation have kept the bridge largely unchanged for decades. For the people of Hunza, this is not a tourist attraction or a thrill to be sought out. It is simply the only way home. Vitim River Bridge. In the depths of Siberia, Russia, a narrow railway bridge crosses the Vitim River with no railings, no barriers, and barely enough width for a single vehicle, earning it the grim nickname the Bridge of Death among those who have dared to drive across it. Stretching nearly 600 meters, the bridge sits just a few feet above the water's surface in some sections, meaning a single wrong turn of the wheel sends a vehicle directly into the freezing river below. Built originally to service a nearby railway, the bridge was later repurposed for vehicle traffic. Despite never being properly designed for the task, its wooden planks rotting and shifting unpredictably beneath tires. Siberian winters here plunge temperatures low enough to freeze exposed skin within minutes, and the bridge becomes coated in treacherous black ice that offers almost no traction whatsoever. Numerous vehicles have reportedly slid off the edge over the years, their drivers gambling on a crossing with absolutely no margin for error. The remoteness of the region means that any accident here could leave a driver stranded for hours, in temperatures capable of killing within a single night. Locals who must use this route describe crossing it as an act of pure faith, trusting decades-old wooden planks against one of the most punishing environments on the planet. Huashan Plank Walk. And finally, we arrive at what many consider the single most terrifying crossing on Earth, a narrow wooden plank walkway bolted directly into the sheer cliff face of Mount Hua in China, a mountain so steep and dangerous that ancient pilgrims once called it the path to heaven, believing that only the most devoted would dare attempt it. The plank walk clings to the mountainside more than 7,000 feet above the valley floor, with planks in some sections barely wide enough for a single foot. And visitors are required to wear a harness clipped to a single safety cable, a modern addition that did nothing to exist for the countless pilgrims and monks who crossed this same route for over 1,000 years, with nothing but their bare hands gripping iron chains. Below the planks, there is nothing but open air for thousands of feet, and the wind at this elevation can gust with enough force to physically push a person off balance mid-step. The mountain was historically home to Taoist monks who built temples into its most inaccessible peaks, believing that true enlightenment could only be found by confronting genuine mortal danger. Countless legends surround the mountain, including tales of hermits who lived for decades in tiny caves accessible only by this same treacherous route. But historians confirm that the plank walk itself and the dangers it poses are entirely real and undisputed. Even today, with modern safety harnesses in place, deaths have still occurred here, a stark reminder that no amount of equipment can fully erase the risk of walking a wooden plank bolted to a cliff face thousands of feet in the sky. It is a fitting final destination, a place where human devotion, courage, and sheer disregard for danger collide in the most extreme way imaginable. From ancient rope bridges woven by hand to record-breaking feats of modern engineering, these 18 crossings reveal something extraordinary about the human spirit. Time and again, people have looked at impossible landscapes, at canyons, glaciers, and raging rivers. That seemed to say no further, and they built a way across anyway. Some did it for survival, carrying their families and livelihoods across structures most of us would never dare to attempt. Others did it purely to prove that no mountain, no gorge, and no force of nature could truly stop human determination. What connects every single one of these bridges is not just danger, but resilience, the refusal to let geography decide the limits of what is possible. Our planet is vast, wild, and often merciless, but it is also breathtakingly beautiful. And these crossings stand as proof that courage and ingenuity can meet even the most extreme corners of the earth. If this journey took your breath away, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more extraordinary stories from the most incredible places on our planet, and stay with us as we continue exploring the world's most impossible, mysterious, and unforgettable destinations.